Right, hey guys, it's Ken from the WCC and LHQ West channel, and today I want to talk about Mushoku Tensei, the 8 standby deck that I used to come equal 3rd place in the Strictly Broken TCG Mid-Spring Fest tournament the other weekend. And yeah, you know, seeing as I did not too bad in that tournament, I thought it would be a good opportunity to bring up how I built the deck, how I approached that tournament, how you played the mirror, and you know, all that nice stuff that I think anyone who's planning to play with or against the deck in upcoming Springfest tournaments would be pretty curious to know about. So here's our deck list. Right over here, yep. And I built this deck with the mirror match, so another 8 standby Mushoku matchup in mind, as well as the Hololive matchup, which just came out I think the week before the tournament was run, and it was legal for this tournament. I think across the course of the day I faced 5 Mushokus and 1 Hololive out of like 8 rounds, so I only played against 2 decks that weren't one of those two, so pretty good medical, I would say. And yeah, I dedicated my deck towards those matchups, so let's kind of just talk over my deck. I'm not going to go over all the obvious stuff about like playing 4 combo and you know, all 4 runner and all that stuff, so I'll just go over the smaller options, like why I'm choosing to play a certain number of the cards that I'm playing. Let's start at level 0 then. So 4 runner, yeah, you want 4 runner, it's your best opener, you may as well play 4. Lilia. Lilia is a card that you want more in the Hololive matchup, because if your opponent plays the level 0 Yamada Hermione Minato Aqua or the level 0 Aki Rose, I can't remember the full name of that card, which both of them pay 1 and clock 1 to get a card, or 2 cards sometimes, when they go to the waiting room. So you can use Lilia to send them to stock, and you don't let them use the effect, and you just keep your advantage to level 0. You can also use it against the level 3 Rushia, which has Hand Uncle. You can also use it against 2-2 Eris in the mirror, and it's just overall kind of a neat card to have. So you play 1 just to side chuck it. For Rujed, I think for Rujed is a must in the current meta. The reason being is that you need Rujed to be able to hit yourself to level 1 more effectively and efficiently in the mirror match. So in the mirror match, the ideal setup is that you go to level 1 first before your opponent does, and you put up 2 of your level 1 combo, you double combo, and you get a 2-2 on the board, and your opponent's gonna have trouble swinging over your board. And with 4 copies of Reshard, you have that maximum consistency of A, being able to get all the cards that you want, so the 1-1 combo, a 2k backup in your hand so you can protect your board, and you can also put a 2-2 in your clock at level 0, so you can always stand by it out as long as you have the climax. And secondly, you also get to hit yourself, so you get a lot of damage control in the early game 3 Reshard. You can even search Reshard with Reshard to accelerate your damage and hit yourself up faster. You can always get your tech cards. Yeah, overall, you just really need this card in the mirror match to be able to make sure that you hit level 1 at the timing that you want to hit yourself. So 4 of this, absolutely, I don't think you can take this card out for anything else. 1 for Kajiro, you only really use this card to get through your second or sometimes first deck when you cancel a bit too much and you have a lot of clean damage just sitting at the bottom of your deck, but you don't really need to use this that like often. It's not a deck where you have to hit level, you have to hit your first refresh before you level up. If it happens, it happens, it's nice, but this is kind of just like an emergency button, so you only play 1 copy. 1 copy of the Roxy that grabs the event. I'm playing 2 of the event here, but the event, in my opinion, is a card which you use to increase the consistency of getting your parts, but not a card that you need to use every game. So the Roxy is here just kind of to smoothen out those games where you have to discard certain cards in your hand, and it does give you that little bit of a high roll where you can go into your event if you need to go into your event. But yeah, overall, I don't feel like you need to use the event every game, so I'm only playing 1. And there are neat tricks like you level up, you put your event from memory to waiting room, you search this Roxy, and then you use the Roxy to get the event back, and you search again. 1 copy of the Climax Swap. This is a relatively new addition. I think it's probably worth putting. Both effects are pretty good in the mirrors. So CIP give 1/5, a little bit of extra power so you can scale over your opponent's attackers, and Climax Swap is something that you will need quite a bit if in the mirror you're missing your level 1 combo, you're going to be at a major disadvantage. So being able to hold this card and then treat any climax you draw as your level 1 combo, or alternatively you can hold on to the wrong combo and then search into this card later, so you can guarantee that you hit level 1 with the combo. And then at level 3 you can, if you unfortunately take a little bit too much damage and you need to push the game a turn or two earlier than you expected, you can use this card to go into a level 3 combo and end the game pretty confidently. So I very much appreciate the 1 copy of this card. I think it's something that you'd want to play. Not an absolute must, but if you're expecting a lot of mirrors, I think it's worth considering. For Brainstorm, we kind of know the reason I don't play 3 and actually play the maximum number is because I want to put one in level a lot, so I can use the event at level 1. I also quite often put one on board so I can pay out stock or something, and then I have to hold one in hand in case I trigger a stamina on the first attack and play over this, so I can still have a Brainstorm next turn. Right, level 1, pretty obvious, 4 combo, nothing else to say. 1 of the Ghislaine, similar reason to the level 0 Eris Flagidor. I don't aim to refresh it level 1 in this deck, all in. I mean, if it happens, it's nice, but yeah, this is also just kind of one of those emergency buttons. So if you need to go through your deck, you can use it. Otherwise, you know, it doesn't really need to come out every game. It's also a nice card to use if you miss your level 1 combo, so at least you can put down an attacker, reverse something, gain hand for next turn, set up a bit. So yeah, it's flexible but not part of the main plan, so I only play 1 copy. 2 2k backups. This is because when I was only playing 1, it felt not too bad, but in the mirror, sometimes you want to, and if you only play 1, the moment it goes to any zone that you can't access it, like your clock or somewhere deep in your stock, you basically can't defend your board until you hit level 2, so I feel like you need 2 copies of this for increased consistency and the chance of being able to have 2 in your hand when necessary. I missed the level 0 here, sorry. So this Rudius, bounce to give 1k when you slam a climax in top check 2, CIP give 1k, you need this for the mirror, you need it to scale over big things, you don't play 2 in a single turn ever, so you only play 1. The 2-2 split, I'm playing 2 each. I think the more common split is that you play 3 of the Ghislaine and 1 or 2 of the Eris. Reason I'm playing 2 of the Eris in this deck is because, again, in the mirror and against Hololive you need this. In the mirror you need, you actually want to standby Eris out before you standby Ghislaine, because you can just protect your 1/1s with the 2k backup anyway. And then this card can smack over your opponent's Ghislaine, where the other way it doesn't work. This card is also 2/5 higher than level 1 Eris, whereas Ghislaine is like 1/5 higher, which means that if unprotected, you can get over a counter. Even if protected, if you have if you both have the same number of global 1Ks, it doesn't really matter. You're worth that 2/5 power higher. Against Hololive, you need this as a recurring attacker. Against stuff like, say, Kanata or Rishia, those characters, yeah, you can probably smack over them on offense, but then they're going to whack over you on defense. This card can encore itself, so you have another shot, and you can still keep the 2-soul attacker even if it doesn't scale over your opponent's characters. And especially against the Ayame level 3, which can level down 2 of your characters, this card can be encored with 1 card in hand, which is quite often worth it. At least it's an option. Ghislaine can't do that, so yeah, this is probably the one you want to get out in the mirror and against Hololive. That being said, you still want Ghislaine, so it's good against other matchups. 1k support is still good in the mirror and that matchup too, so I'm still playing the 2. Honestly speaking, I might want to take out maybe one of the copies of the level 3 Eris early play and put in a 3rd Ghislaine so I can get a bit more consistency in having multiple 2-2s in the bin, but that's about it. Just a Child Rudius, the rest counter, I'm only playing 2 because you don't use 3 per game. If you play 1, you encounter the situation where you trigger this card early or something, and it's relatively deep in your stock. And this card requires you to have a lot of stock to use, but if you have to use stock to dig this card out and then use it in the late game, then it's kind of just not very worth it. And at that point, you have to discard the idea of using this card during that game, which really narrows down your options per game. So I think having 2 to avoid that sort of scenario and just having an increased chance of drawing into it naturally is probably better, so I'm playing 2 here. Then level 3, stock swap. You need stock swap. People say, oh, you can just play around this in the mirror and whatnot, but in matchups which aren't the mirror, so against, say, Kanata Hololive, which can accumulate a lot of stock if you just leave untouched, against 8 Choice Slime, which generally builds up a lot of stock towards the end game, so you can use it all and end the game. Against Mushoku Bangream, similar to what's its name? To Slime. So against those matchups, this card leaves you the option of getting up to level 3 first, you stocks up your opponent and then you end the game from there. You can also just use it in, the general scenario where you stock a lot of damage early, your opponent's trying to cancel with the remaining climaxes in their thin deck, and then you just say no and you stock swap them. So I think this is a must. It's just gonna suck to have games where you couldn't win because you didn't have stock swap, and with one copy it's not gonna hurt you. If you know you're not gonna need it, you can just chuck it wherever you need. Two of the early play Eris. So this card is an 11k. It burns, so it's basically always good in terms of the damage race, because if you're on higher damage, you want your opponent to take damage so you can catch up. If you're on lower damage, well, you still want your opponent to take damage so you can end the game faster. And the nice thing about this card is that it's 11k power and recurring, so when it bounces back, when it reverses, you can bounce back to your hand, and your opponent might be a bit deterred by that effect. And even if they're not deterred, well, you still get the option of burning that extra one going into your last turn. So the main function of this card is to hit 11k, which is 1k higher than any of the choo-choos that you have, which come out at level 1. So basically, this card basically actually increases your level 2 power line without waiting on a standby immediately. So in the mirror and stuff, where you hit level 2 before your opponent, you can put this card down, whack over your opponent's stuff, and then your opponent might struggle a bit to get rid of it. So it's a good card to kind of cement your place on the board. I'm playing 2 in this list because quite often I've had myself putting 1 into level zone and I still wanted 1 floating around in my deck, but honestly I think I could probably just do with 1, because I haven't had any games where I play more than 1 copy of this card on the board, unless I'm like winning really hard already. So I'd say 1 copy of this card is fine for the mirror, and you can dedicate that 1 extra space to maybe a second Roxy heal or a third 2/2 Gillian, whatever you like. 4 level 3 combo, obvious, not much to say. 2 level 3 support. I've seen some lists playing 1, but in the mirror you want 2 for added consistency, so I'm playing 2. And then finally the TD Roxy. So this is a card I added pretty late in the deck building stage. This card's focus is more on the burn effect than the heal. You can heal, it's fine, it's nice, but the burn is, it burns 2 for 2 stock and 2 hand, which is the same amount of stock and burn damage as the level 3 Ghislaine if you have combo, but obviously the difference here is that this one does not require combo. So this card, in my opinion, has 2 main uses. The first main use is that you can play it down at level 2. So when you trigger or play a standby, you can play it down, and your opponent either has to get rid of it, or they always have to be scared of you burning 2 with excess resources that you've probably saved because this card didn't get reversed. And then the second way of using it is that you standby this card when you use your level 3 combo. So when you use your level 3 combo, sometimes you're not going to end the game, but you still have this card up, so you can burn a bit with your level 3 combo, you survive the next turn, you push this card up, and because it's 2 cost and 2 hand, you can always use it on the last attack as long as you have 2 hand. So you can use this as your supplementary finisher, so if you don't end the game with Ghislaine, you can end the game with this. And I think there was one game, I think in round 6, the last round of Swiss, that was how I ended up winning. So yeah, it definitely does help. You can play a send copy to increase the number of heals in your deck and just increase the consistency of getting that finisher in. But for the moment, I'm only playing 1, and I think 1 will still do its job, so pretty great card. That's the deck. So stuff I didn't play is over here. I'm going to be pretty brief here though. Early play Rudius kind of fills the same role as the early play Eris, in that it's big, it fronts over your opponent's stuff, it might survive on defense. But this card's yellow, my deck doesn't play yellow, so I don't want to play it. Level 3 Paul. Paul is actually a pretty decent card. You don't need yellow to utilize this card that great, but I do not play yellow in my deck as a color that I need to put into my level zone, so sometimes it's a bit awkward in hand. And secondly, this card's not very good in the mirror and against Hololive. So against Hololive, it just gets outed by level 3 Watame or level 3 Ayame. So it doesn't really get to do anything before after it comes out. In the mirror, it's not as bad, but this card is most likely just going to get outed as soon as you play it out, and at that point it's just kind of RNG whether or not you get to Reflect Burn, because firstly you need to cancel, secondly you need to mill a card with the soul icon, and thirdly you need to be able to justify using the burn. So like if you only have one opportunity, it's not that great. Decided against it. Early play Rudius, not terrible, but he's yellow, don't want to play it. And he changed council. The aim of this deck is to try and you want to kind of use all of your resources at the end game, either for your rest counter or your finisher. And this card is quite pricey if you want to use the anti-change effect. And basically, it's not really a valuable trade-off to use this, unless your opponent walks right into it, but I generally don't play cards assuming that my opponent's going to not play around it. So I didn't play this card. I think it's okay to play this card though, on the other hand, if your metagame has a lot of, say, 8 standby slime. A standby slime generally needs to play out their level 3 Benimaru in order to fight your board, because the 2-2, what's that guy's name, Geld? The 2-2 Geld isn't quite big enough, so if you anti-change Benimaru, it generally reduces the power of your opponent's Geld by like 2-5 or something, and that's usually going to seal the good deal. Level 1 Reject counter, it's a decent counter, but I want to save stock, so chose not to play it. I think it's fine. Level 0 Rudius, I don't think this card is particularly good in the current metagame, or the metagame I expected, which is Hololive and the mirror. In the mirror, your opponent might just turn one pass, and if your opponent turn one passes, this card doesn't have a roll anymore, so not good. Against Hololive, you actually want to not send your opponent's stuff to the waiting room, because you lets them use their waiting room effects, and instead you want to stock kick them, so kind of not that good. So it's not terrible as a one-off, but I wanted to use the space for other stuff. And then finally we have the green level 0 Guild Receptionist. She's a non-plussing Brainstorm with Thirst and Discard and CAP Draw Ditch. She's okay. I just kind of didn't find the space for her, and I don't think her two effects, I don't think either of her two effects are particularly great. They're fine, but they're not powerful enough, in my opinion, to justify the space over all of the other one-offs I'm playing, so I decided to pass on it this time, but she's fine. So yeah, that's the deck that I was playing over the weekend, but you know, there's a lot of videos out there, or articles even, where people just say, oh, this card does this, and this card does this, and you don't really get an idea of how the deck works. So I'm going to just skip over to the next section, where I'll commentate over the game that I played in the semi-finals of the Strictly Broken tournament, where I actually do lose, but I think it was a good game in recounting what points I could have done better, how you can play the mirror a bit more effectively, and all that other stuff. So we'll jump right over to that. Alright, so here's the video. I'm going to commentate over the muted version of it. I think the guys who ran the tournament did a great job, but I just want to share my own thoughts here, so that's that. It's going to be on 1.5 times speed, but I will pause the video every now and then as I want to discuss key points, and sometimes either one of us is just going to be playing too fast for me to be able to fit all of that in. So just bear with me and let's get rolling. Right, so I think I'm going first, and I choose to mull 3 here, and the 3 cards I mull, you'll see in a moment, are these 3. So reason I mull those 3 is, well, obviously I don't need the level 3 in my hand. As for the 2 level 0s, I'm intending to pass turn 1 here, because I'll talk about why I'll pass turn 1, I guess. But in any case, you don't need Lilia in the early stages of this matchup. You most want it when you want to stock kick the 2-2 Eris. And you don't need the Brainstorm on your first turn because, well, you don't have stock to use either of the effects. So yeah, I'm just going to discard those. If I trigger a standby and get them out, that's great. If I don't, well, that's also fine. I also don't have my level 1 combo climax here, so I'm going to discard a few extra cards just to be able to draw into them better. And the 2 cards that I kept were the Runner and the 1 copy of the Recharge Clock Search. And I think my opponent discards 1 copy of the level 3. This is kind of interesting. It generally gives me an idea. It's hard to say, because in this matchup, you would obviously discard anything that's level 2 or higher here. And you probably would, if it means that whatever you keep is level 1 or higher, but then you can standby out level 1s. And then you don't actually want to attack with that many level 0s, so you can definitely afford to discard one. So I'm not too sure what's going on with my opponent's hand at this point, but we'll move on from there. Alright, so yeah, I clock here. I think I clock the runner, yeah, and then I pass a turn. So the reason I pass turn there is you want to hit level 1 and double combo immediately in the mirror. Or in general, really, but especially in the mirror. And so me attacking here once doesn't actually accomplish anything towards that goal. Because if I only have one stock, I can only play one combo anyway. So attacking once here and then twice the next turn is the same as attacking 0 here and then attacking 3 times the next turn. But one difference is that it gives my opponent damage from a direct attack, assuming he doesn't cancel. And if he doesn't cancel, and then he decides to swing back at me twice, and then I swing back at his characters again, the chances are that my opponent gets to hit level 1 with 2 stock earlier than I can. So by only choosing to attack twice, by choosing not to attack here, I put my opponent in a spot where now he has to make the decision of whether or not he wants to attack or not. But if he attacks 0 times, then he's susceptible to a tri-lane next turn, where he will go into level 1 with 0 stock, which is pretty bad. At one attack, I can still make a tri-lane, and he'll only have one line in a combo. I also have the option of going dual lane in that case, where he'll still probably not level up, but I get to keep my attackers. And now he has to attack me, I will go to level 1 with 2 stock, and that's my kind of game, right? And then if he attacks me 3 times, he will go down to 4 hand, he doesn't have anything to stand by out, and on top of that, he's still, if I answer all of his board on the following turn, he may not actually level up either. So he does have 3 stock, but he'll have low hand. So basically I'm putting them in a pretty awkward spot here by just not attacking. And so he chooses to clock and draw 2. And then, okay, it's one line in the middle. So because it's in the middle, it's going to be a bit awkward with my runner because I can't move. And I cancelled here. It's a bit annoying. But that's all not really a problem, because I still have the flexibility in what I want to do here. So I clock away at level 3, I'm not going to use. And then I think I play Reject. Yeah, I play Reject, clock away at 2-2, so I'm set up for level 1 when I get the combo. And I set my level 1 combo so I can do it next turn. And then I go into a second search with Reject here, and I think I search a second copy of my level 1 combo, getting rid of the amulet, because I don't need the amulet to search my level 1 combo anymore. Yep. And then, yeah, some shuffling going on, and I also cancelled with the 1-1 in the first card of damage last turn, so if I trigger a standby here, I can also bring out that 1-1, which is a point I'm going to bring up in a moment, so kind of just keep that in mind. Yeah, I do the, the remote fight card, all that fancy stuff, and then I choose to play a 3rd card down as an attacker here. And I believe it was a runner. Yeah, it's a runner. Okay, so this is, okay, my video in the stream froze. Alright. This is what I actually think, in retrospect, is a misplay. It's not a game-losing misplay, but it's maybe like a 4 to 6 out of 10 play. It could have been a lot better. So I'm tri-laning here, which means that out of the line of either stopping my opponent at level 0 by only attacking twice, or putting my opponent to level 1 with 1 stock, I've chosen to put my opponent up with 1 stock, which means that he can only combo once, which is fine. But the next thing he can do is that he can put a 1-1 in the front row and then put a Ghislaine out, which puts this thing on 8-5, and then if he holds a 2k backup, it's a bit difficult for me to fight his board. So I think the better card to search off the second Reject, if I was going to try lane, is to search the level 0 Rudius, which can bounce itself to give power. And so even though I level up second, I can still attempt to scale over my opponent's board. It also means that I can still double combo at least, as long as I draw a standby on the next attack. sorry, on one of the 3 attacks, which isn't all that unlikely. Even if I don't do that, it's kind of fine. I have the option to go O-combo regardless and do everything. Another line of play is that I search rigid with a third rigid with a second rigid, which means that I can wait next turn and see if I draw either one of those 2 cards that I wanted, and then I can search the other one, so I don't technically waste any searches, while still keeping up all of the options that I have. So I think the search that I made here with double combo was not the ideal search going into the line of play that I decided to. So not game throwing, but could be a lot better. Anyway, I think we'll just keep going. Oh, and sorry, finally, the reason I'm choosing to attack with the runner here is because if my opponent tries to tri-lane next turn, regardless of whether he levels up or not, the 3-5 is a bit hard for him to beat quite easily if he can't play his 1-1s, so that's just there to kind of hope it's going to come back. And I did trigger a standby there, so yeah, things could have been a lot smoother if I searched for the other stuff. Anyhow, yeah, my opponent does hit level 1 here. He clocks away his standby, which means he probably has too many climaxes in hand. But yeah, so obviously he can only play 1 line of combo here, and I think the line he goes for was double level 0 in the back row and standby at 2-2 in the front row or something. Basically, yeah, it does go into my level 0 survived, so I have more resources than my opponent. I have 3 stock, I have a living board. My opponent, sure, technically has a living board, but only has 1 stock. And I could capitalize on advantage there, but as I said earlier, if I had searched for the Rudius that bounces itself with power, I would have been able to additionally even contest my opponent's board. So I've kind of narrowed my options in this turn. Yeah, and my opponent uses 1 lane, not only just 1 lane of combo, but just 1 attack. Puts a 2-2 in the front row, and I think I missed what he salvaged, but oh, whatever. Then he triggers 1 standby here, but I think he only had 1 2-2 in the bin, so he just gets out of Kajiro. And I take the 2, I can hit myself next turn to level up, which I definitely am doing. Yeah, and I don't think I'm going to use the accelerate this game. It's not that important. I'm kind of already fine on hand advantage, so that's the card going into my level zone. But yeah, this could have been a lot better if I searched for the right card. But yeah, I can go triple combo here. Except again, it's not that helpful because unless I trigger a second standby, I don't get to. Yeah, I don't get to contest the 1-1, and then I guess I get up 3 lanes where it's difficult for my opponent to fight. But playing it down is kind of it's a bit of a gamble here because I don't have a guarantee for what my opponent's going to do next turn, and so if my opponent just gets another 2-2 on the board and then fights my 1-1 or something, it's not too fantastic because my opponent can also use the bounce give 1k. So I think I just capitalized on the fact that I was able to save my level 0 and use that to gain stock and keep my opponent on a low level. But in that case, as you can see, I only have 2 1-1s on the board, of which one was standby out. So one of the searches that I made last turn was kind of wasted, where if I had searched for the bounce give 1k, it would have been a lot stronger. But yeah, anyway, that's that. Yeah, so I side here, keep my board up, so I don't take too much damage, but I have the options to do stuff, and I think I side the last one here as well. Yeah, so my opponent doesn't actually get to put that many cards in his bin, so his next standby is kind of a bit RNG or maybe just weak, whereas I might hit myself up to a higher level, and that way I'll be able to fight his board a little bit better. Yeah, my opponent's level 0s in the back row kind of struggling to find a role this game, as is my runner, I guess, but it was a free attack on my one, so it's not as bad. So on 5 stock. Yeah, maybe playing the third. No, I think not using the third Eris is fine here. I don't really want to lose climaxes from my deck at this point in the game, especially because I didn't have my brainstorm. I can't twin drive out anything that I trigger. So milling through my deck is probably not very advantageous. Yeah, so opponent does get a second lane out, does get a second line of combo, but that's 10k versus 8-5, so I think he'll probably have to side these lanes. Oh no, okay, so he chooses to front here, and I do have a 2k backup here, but I only have one. So if I choose to 2k backup this one, then the middle lane gets fronted by Ghislaine. I can't counter that. And then he gets to keep his 2-2, and like I get to keep a 1-1. But at least if I don't 2k back up here, he has to side the middle one, and I still take the damage, but I get to hold the 2k back up and my board survives, which is more important at this stage, so I chose not to 2k back up here. And then, yeah, I take the 1, and I think he sides here, because that's, yeah. Yeah, playing out a 1-1 there was probably gonna save me hand in the long run, potentially even stock, but yeah, I really didn't want to go into that third line of combo quite there. So I think instead I'm just going to capitalize on the fact that I chose to side last turn as well, so my opponent won't hit level 2 too comfortably if I choose to side here. Yeah, and I use the amulet as a foolish burial, sending a 2-2 encore to my waiting room so I can get that out when I want to, as well as searching for the early play so I can use that to fight my opponent's board when I hit level 2. But I think that's also kind of like one of those 6 out of 10 plays that I make this game, and we'll kind of say why in a sec. But basically I don't play this turn out in a way which sort of supports my search. Yeah, so I hit 1 here. Reason I pay 1 there is because I wanted to pay out the bounce radius that I triggered on the last attack last turn, so I want to have it in the deck. But the way I play this turn, yeah, I get that card back. I'm going to play a standby. I think I combo again. Yeah. Which means that I'm going to end the turn with the climax that I play this turn in the waiting room. And because I'm still at level 1, if I cancel more than 1 time in order to do that, I don't get to... Yeah, I don't get to early play the level 3 that I just searched. Yeah, so that was not a fantastic play. Me getting the level 2 there is kind of fine though, because by holding that card, it sort of forces my opponent to play in a certain way where he doesn't play into it. So the search here is pretty decent. I get out the 2-2 global here because getting out the 2-2 hand on call doesn't really work at this timing, because I need to be able to at least make his 2-2 dodge my 2-2. Yeah, and I front here because I pumped power twice there, which means that a 2k backup is going to match, which means that he loses 2 cards, I only lose 1. Except it doesn't look that way because my opponent didn't really reverse his characters during the battle's attack phase, which kind of wish he did a bit more often because it's a bit visually confusing for the stream. But yeah, anyhow, I think I refreshed 6. I have another climax in hand, so I can use it to standby out another card to fight for the board a bit better. So I'm basically entirely focused on fighting for the board this game, which generally is how you want to play the mirror. And because I have the level 0 bounce radius again, every turn I basically am able to contest my opponent's stuff. But we'll see how that goes, I guess. But so far, the other 2 lanes on my board are equal power, so I'll say it's kind of surprising my opponent used the 2k backup, because I'm definitely going to front the next 2, because he's going to be able to fight them on... Oh, that's an ad. Yeah, so if I front there, my opponent has to 2k backup this and the next one as well, but he basically uses a card on every single lane. Which, he actually does have a second copy of the 2k backup. It's fine, it means he can't use them next turn. But yeah. So yeah, my board is gone, which means he does have free reign to attack with the level 0 that he's got stuck in his back row. But if he doesn't trigger a standby and play over that, it does mean that I have a free lane technically as well, so it's all not really that bad. I have another standby to cement my board next turn. I have the early play, but again, because I end the turn with 1 climax in waiting room, if I cancel more than once here, I don't get to use the early play. If I don't cancel more than once here, then I'm on mid-level 2, so yeah, I really could have played that turn a bit better, but that mostly comes from the way I played the 1-1. So yeah, it could have been better, but not really. Again, I'm kind of surprised my opponent plays that there, because that level 0 in the back row is really not doing anything. And it's not like healing here is that important, but... And then on top of that, he doesn't have a support. So... Even though he... Yeah, like even though his front row is like technically big, it's not all that difficult for me to scale over. If he didn't trigger that standby, I would have probably just gotten 3 reverses without doing anything. So yeah, it ended up working, but I wasn't too underconfident on winning the board here. I think I used 1 event to search for the Roxy again. Oh no, I searched for the 2-2 here. Reason being that because I did double cancel, I can't play out the early play that I searched. So that's the second search I kind of wasted this game. Try not to do that, guys, I guess. And then I searched the 2-2, which I'm aiming to hardcast this turn in order to fight with the board. In a general game, that's obviously not good, because you don't want to hardcast the 2-2s in standby decks if you can. It's not terrible, but you want to avoid it. However, I'm quite a bit ahead on stock this game because of how the early game turned out and the fact that my opponent still played cards down against what I thought he would do. So I can still justify the play of that 2-2 and I can still whack over his character, so it's alright, it's not too bad. Then I believe 4 out, I have 1 in hand. No, I think I may have drawn 1 for turn. I'm at least 4 out. So anyhow. So opponent's board is 11, 12, 5, 10, 5, which means that I'm going to ignore the middle because it doesn't do anything aside from heal. And then I can just set up my board and fight my opponent's stuff, and because he already used 2 2k backups, it's pretty unlikely that he's going to be able to keep... It's pretty unlikely he's going to be able to keep his board for free again. I toss one of the 2k backups that I have in hand because I'm not going to win all 3 lanes. And I can play this game more for the damage race than for board advantage, sort of, at this point. Yeah, so hardcast that 2-2 that I searched. Sorry, yeah, I forgot to search discard for the event, so that's my discard. Again, that's a wasted search, try not to do that. I think, so in an earlier part of this video, I said that Paul's not that great in the mirror, and this is kind of where it stands out, where Paul's only 11k, which is like the same amount of power that I'm getting out of my 2-2 from hardcasting it. So as a standby target, he's not actually putting in a lot of work. He sort of protects the rest of your board, but I mean, so does like a 2k support here. So yeah, I don't think the use of Paul in the mirror is all that awesome. But anyhow, I front attack here. The reason I chopped the middle is because I top check 2 and saw a climax here, so I can just reanimate a level 3 in the middle for board. It's like a solid 14k. My 2-2 goes up by 1k from the twin drive given by the 3-2, which means that I hit for 11-12k over my opponent's 10-5. So again, my opponent will have to use stock there. I get to pay out the stock. And even if my opponent uses the anti-change to get rid of the back row here, I can twin drive here. So I might get the board back, and even if I don't get the board back, I still get to compress by 2. So it still plays kind of neatly in my favor because I've accumulated that early game stock. Honestly, I was really shocked that my opponent used the anti-change here. So reason being that my opponent has 4 stock, 3 from attacking, 1 from the healer stock, and then if that damage didn't cancel, which was like this damage or the next damage doesn't cancel, which honestly, like, we don't have any guess on how that will go down. He's gonna have to play with 1 stock going into like late level 2, and then 4 stock from 3 attacks, etc, etc. Then the card that he counters, the card that he removes is already like finished attacking, and if he countered to sack his level 0 and get rid of my back row, then it does save his Ghislaine, so it like fights for the board and it makes sense. But I think he gets rid of my front row that I just stand by, which is a card that I just got for free. So for no reason, my opponent just used 3 stock, and I got to keep my board. And if I twin grab here and I get a standby, then I get to replace the card that I just outed. So I'm kind of in a pretty good position here. Like, I kind of love the fact that he did that, really. I still have a decent number of climaxes left, so if I just trigger 1 here, it would be pretty good. Sadly though, I do trigger 1, but then I trigger another one on top of that. So yes, my board came back, but then all of a sudden I have like 1 climax and 8 or something. That wasn't really a misplay, it just kind of sucked for me. And then because I direct to 5, my opponent cancels, which is pretty frustrating, because again, I said like there were lines of play that I saw which would have been able to help his board more, but because I specifically double triggered and specifically he lost the lane that he chose to, he cancelled as well. So now I have to worry about, yes, I definitely have the combo climax in hand. I think I have double combo as well. Anyhow. Yeah, so my board is 12, 14, 11, which is, I think you can fight the 11 with his level 3 Rudius or something, but yeah, it's not an easy board to fight if you only have 1 stock. And then after a triple cancel like that, I mean, you can still play a climax, I guess. But yeah, anyhow, like his standby targets haven't they haven't really gotten control back of the board, because, and yeah, he brainstorms here. I think personally I would have liked to keep that stock for late game, but I suppose we have different preferences. Yeah, so at this point, I still have backups. I can still protect my board. I can still do all the stuff that I want to do. But this is where I make it 0 out of 10 play. So, alright, let me stop the video. So in this matchup, when you hold the 2-1 Priscilla, the rest counter, a lot of the time you don't actually get to use it, because the best opportunity for you to use it, your opponent is also playing Mushoku, which means they can deny backups with Ghislaine. But there are occasionally games where you're very ahead in resources, and you can afford to use it at level 2 and stop your opponent from using it, stop your opponent from denying you from using it, because they can't get Ghislaine out, or you've already used it by the time they do. And this was an opportunity where I thought about that, and the fact that my opponent had only got, has got 0 stock, so 2 stock if I deny one of his attacks, or 3 if I don't. And so I kind of didn't think that very much. Didn't think it through. And I end up using the counter here. Thinking, well, if my opponent only has 2 stock, and, you know, I've got one, like, I'd stop 1 attack here, I should be pretty set, but I'm absolutely not set, because I only have 5 stock. If I use, I've only got 7 stock. If I use 5 of it, I go down to 2. And then, if I take too much damage this turn, it's pretty rough. I guess one other thing here is, because my deck is it's not thick enough that if I don't stop this attack, there's a chance that I have to refresh with 5 climaxes, because I have 1 in hand and 2 stuck in stock here. So that also kind of made me hastily decide to do that, but honestly speaking, even if I were to do that, I should have waited 1 more attack. There were just better opportunities to do it, really. Or just to not do it at all, really. So Yeah, no, I definitely shouldn't have done that. That was probably a game throw. But anyway, yeah, take 2. So the last reason I kind of sort of wanted to justify that at the time was my opponent's setting for 2 here. So the board damage looks like 1 and 2 if I rest 1 attack. So unless he double triggers here, I'm not going to level up. So it's not too terrible. But then he does double trigger, of which, yeah, technically I knew 1, I guess. But so I do level up. I'm on 3-2. I have some cards left in my deck. I can't heal off my refresh point unless I force myself to do something funky. Yeah, so I've kind of just put myself in a really bad position. If I didn't use that counter there, I would have cancelled once here. I'd still have 7 stock. I'd probably be able to refresh a bit more comfortably and then heal off the refresh point, and I'd actually be in a pretty good spot. I can grind out my opponent's resources. But yeah, you know, I used the rest counter there, so that was not a good idea. I'm getting caught out in chat. I was tired, okay. Played from like 1 AM and this is like 7 AM or something. Maybe 8. No, that's just an excuse, don't worry about that. But yeah, just don't do that. But yeah, so now I clock myself so I don't have to decompress my next deck, even though I need to put out a board. But it's gonna be pretty rough because I have to heal this turn for sure. I do have combo, but I can't use the rest counter either. And then, yeah, I'm on 3-1 with 3 stock ending this turn. So yeah, things are really not that good. But the other way of looking at it is that if my opponent does take enough damage this turn, I can win the game in 2 turns. And my opponent doesn't have that much output on the following one because he only has like 1 extra instance of burn. But then, you know, as you can see here, my opponent does not take any damage because I think... Oh no, he takes like 1 instance. Yeah. Which is kind of the worst case scenario. If he had triple cancelled, he can't hit level 3 soon, so I don't have to worry about taking burns, and I can slow out the game so the resource difference actually helps. And then if he had taken more damage, then, well, I'm just closer to winning the game, so that's also fine. But because it's exactly 1, he gets to hit level 3 here. Which is what I was thinking, except my opponent brainstorms, so it doesn't actually matter because he can't play out 2 soul characters anyway. But yeah, another thing I kind of like didn't think through when I used that res counter was that if my opponent only has 3 stock there, he can't play 2 Ghislaine anyway. So it didn't really matter that I held on to the res counter until later in the game. So yeah, all in all, that was a 0 out of 10 play. Really bad. It definitely cost me the game more than anything else that I did here. Yeah, and then revealing from the card that gets the event. So yeah, I'm on 3-1. I've got a direct lane up, and I am really not in a good position. Right, yeah. I think I can at least my board's coming back, so like I have a shot at ending the game next turn. Yeah, that's a pretty perfectly timed standby. It's a lane that I have to worry about. I really don't want to take 3 damage. And yeah, he also sealed up a lane that was originally going to be a direct attack. So yeah, me being on 3-5 here, I only have this turn left to play the game. I'm realistically speaking not going to cancel that much, so I'm just going to go for the game here. I do have combo, as I said like 3 turns ago. And then yeah, I put the Ghislaine in front of the other one because if I put it in front of Paul, he has a chance of he has 2 opportunities to burn me, which both will be lethal, so can't afford to do that. And then standby doesn't really matter. I get a twin drive, I guess. But yeah, I really needed to sort of stick that 3/4 for this to be lethal. Yeah, and then this is like not really a game costing misplay because it ends up not mattering, but for some reason I choose not to burn here. I really can't remember why, but if the 2 sticks and then I trigger a soul trigger, I can do 2 and 3 for exact lethal, so I don't really remember why I do that, but yeah, you know, if you're in this scenario and you really need to win the game, you should probably take the option that actually gives you lethal. But my opponent cancels that too, so it ends up not mattering. And then I think my opponent just does some fairly normal stuff and 6-2 somewhere, and that's game. I triggered a climax, so I still have like 5 climaxes in deck, but I need to cancel every single instance of damage my opponent has here. I don't remember. Oh, he brainstormed there. That's strange. I feel like my opponent's endgame would have been a lot stronger if he didn't brainstorm like 3 times and miss. Kind of just in general, you don't want to brainstorm in this deck that much unless it's to pay out climaxes, because if you trigger a climax, you gain a card and you save 2 stock because you put out a 2-soul character for 0 stock investment. But if you brainstorm, you use 1 stock and then you have to pay the cost to play out the card as well. There's like a 5 stock difference, technically. So if you can help it, you try not to brainstorm, I would say. But no combo. I need to cancel 2 swings, maybe a 3rd swing if he triggers on the last one. But I take the 3 from the top, and that's game. Right, so if you've been listening, I kind of just highlighted what I did wrong that game. But overall, what you do want, I wasn't doing badly in the greater picture, I would say. You want to be able to fight for the board, and you want to be able to scale your opponent's stuff and not necessarily be hindered by damage, as in you still want to be able to front attack your opponent's stuff and not hold back if you can get that stock difference over your opponent. And in a game like this, where you go first and then you can try lane going second and then set up your combo as well, attacking 3 times there is fine. You just need to be able to search for the right card, which I wasn't able to do there. On top of that, another thing I probably didn't really do too well here is I kind of expected that my opponent's my opponent's turns would produce the average outcome as opposed to the maximum possible outcome. So a lot of the turns there, my opponent triggered standby and like got out cards that I didn't really think that he would get. But the reason I didn't think of it was because I was obviously only thinking about the average sort of turn that he could have. But if I had thought about like, well, what's the maximum that he can get? It's obviously better to assume that your opponent's going to get like perfect triggers here and there. Unless like you actually just can't win in those scenarios. But I definitely could have won in those scenarios too. So if I had thought about, well, if my opponent crits here, crits on the next one, I take all of 5, well, I'm going to be in a pretty bad spot if I use all my 5 stock to stop just 1 attack here, because that would have just been a cancel anyway. I would have used the counter, I would have leveled up, I would have been able to heal twice, and, you know, just, I would have had a much better shot at winning. Last turn as well, like, if my opponent, obviously on that turn, I had to hope that my opponent doesn't cancel too much, but if I had more stock there, I would have had the option to heal down, I would have had the option to deal more damage, I would have just had a lot more paths to decide from. So yeah, overall, I would say that the way that I played this matchup from like a macro viewpoint at the beginning was fine. It's just like a lot of the micro decisions that I made during the game really cost me overall, especially that one really bad rest counter. So that's how I would talk about playing the mirror and my run during the weekend. I hope that helps you if you're interested in how to play the mirror match or how to play with or against 8 standby Mushoku. And I hope all of you have, a good run in your upcoming Spring Fests. I'll see you next time. Cheers.